Greetings, my name is Josh McVeigh. I'm a software QA manager and automation test lead at Expansion Software out of Kearney, Nebraska, one of our rural centers. And today I want to share with you about a project we've put out on GitHub called SikuliStarter. And for a good summary, I guess I would call SikuliStarter a very simple automation framework for the tool Sikuli. And Sikuli is just an image recognition IDE that works to allow you to do some things, to make your computer do some things in an automatic way through some scripting. And today I'm going to actually assume that you have played with Project Sikuli, that you've gone to this website, that you've downloaded it, installed it, played with it, and that you've actually come and followed the instructions for installing the SikuliStarter project so that you have all of these Sikuli files that you need to run the SikuliStarter. So before I give that, I'll give you a little bit more introduction. That's the picture of the guy talking at you right now, so I always like to see a face on a voice, so that's who's talking at you today. And I want to share with you a little bit too about why it is we chose Sikuli and what exactly we expect Sikuli to do. So what we needed in the project that we had for a client was to be able to automate Flash. We could not get at the code to put in hooks like is needed for tools like Selenium, so we had to find a way to automate it in the browser, and the only way that we were able to do that was using an image-based recognition system, and that's why we created SikuliStarter. We needed to be able to automate the functionality of the application and organize that automated functionality into test cases. We also needed to manage the images used to drive the Sikuli automation. Anyone who's worked with Sikuli or any type of image recognition software or automation tool understands that you have a lot of images that you need to manage. And the way that we have created SikuliStarter is we've created image dictionaries so that the images are not in line with your code and functionality, but they're referred to in a dictionary. And this makes images much easier to manage, and you can create images very, very quickly for your project to use. This made editing thousands of lines of code very easy when the application changed and images changed. So this was a huge advancement and is a key component of the SikuliStarter project. We also needed to have data-driven tests. Having data-driven tests allows us to read in files or read from a database and then drive our tests with data as opposed to having to do everything manually. And so we wanted it to be as automated as possible. So the SikuliStarter project that you will have access to on GitHub has the ability to read a flat file in of terms or any type of configuration setup. All of that is available in the SikuliStarter. We also needed to be able to log the information that we were testing. Did we actually find the images we were looking for? Were we actually able to perform the user action like logging in or searching or sorting? Did those things actually happen? And we have the ability to track that using the SikuliStarter project in a log file, and that's all customizable through the project. We also needed to have verification. Did what we want to happen actually happen? And how would we verify that? Well, built into the SikuliStarter project is a screenshot mechanism that timestamps and takes screenshots of the screen as it is running your Sikuli scripts extended with the SikuliStarter project. So those are some basic problems and basic automation problems that everyone has to address when they build an automation framework, and so SikuliStarter addresses those and helps you get started if you need to use automated image recognition based automation. So let's move on to the next part. Now we're ready to look at the actual Sikuli application itself and to kind of understand what SikuliStarter does for us. So let's look at the different pieces that we have. In our project that we've downloaded and pulled up, what we have here is all of the files that are in the zip file that you get from the SikuliStarter GitHub page. And these are these different files. The .sikuli files are the ones that Sikuli reads to understand and create, the framework in the IDE. So it pulls those in. So here we are in the util package, and I'll just go to what these different pieces are. The utilities is a set of functionality that we use for passing. We use it to pass tests. We use it to fail tests. We use it to do all of the screenshotting and timestamping, the file reading. The utilities gives us that extra functionality I was just talking about in the Sikuli project. So that's what the utility package is. A region dictionary is a way that the screen is defined, and instead of having to define every time you wanted to reference a picture a specific region, we set up a dictionary for those regions so that you could reference the top half of the screen just by saying top half, as opposed to having to pass in a region object. We've defined those for you. So this makes using regions much more simple in your project. And those of you who have worked with Sikuli will know that defining a region is extremely important to having success with Sikuli, because if you don't define a region, then the Sikuli looks all over the screen for the image that it's trying to match, and that takes a lot more time than is necessary, as opposed to defining the northwest region of the screen for the image matching to look at. The next part we have is the GrooveShark test.sikuli file. That is the major functionality that exists for the example. Now our example for you today is based on, and this is what is on the GitHub site, is a little example using the GrooveShark website. This is a Flash website. It would be pretty hard to automate with tools unless you had compiled hooks in. And so what we're going to do is show you an example, and what you can download is an example of using this little search interaction over here to search for different terms, and then the logging and screenshotting of those tests. So that's what we're going to share with you today. And so that functionality is described in this GrooveShark test file. The different functionality that we have available is search for music, and the other functionality that we have is to clear out the search bar. Then we also have functionality to search for terms from a data file. So we're going to read in terms using our utilities, and then put those inside of a search for music, into the search for music method, so that we can search for multiple terms out of a data file. The next thing we have is our image dictionary. And this is just like this region dictionary, but it's for our images. And this is the key to making Sikuli a useful tool if you need to use it. And that is that you define all of these images by strings and in one place. If you put your images in line with your code, your functionality code, like in here, then an image changes, you've got to go all through your code and change that image. Here we define it one time, and then we reference this dictionary. This makes everything so much easier, and we can edit this very, very quickly and make Sikuli a functional tool to use with testing. The last thing we have is the actual script of the test. What is the test going to do? And we've broken that out so that we just call the class that contains our functionality. Then we search for music, passing it parameters that it needs. The first one being the search term, the second one being the name of the test that we're doing, how we want it to be logged. Then the second thing that we do is we want to search for terms from the data file. So we call that. So first we have the GrooveShark test up here, and we pull up the GrooveShark page. So it's what when this Sikuli minimizes, it's what you see. So then we're going to run it and see what happens. We're going to run the sample GrooveShark test. This is where you will run this SikuliStarter project from. So we click run, and we see the mouse clear itself out, then come over and click on this search screen, this little search box. We see it type in Weezer, and this of course is all being driven by the Sikuli code that's being run right now, and hit enter and search for the songs. So next the Sikuli code tells it to clear out that box, and then type in the codes from the list that we have in our flat file, and those will be searched for. As you can see, it's going through those terms, clearing out the mouse, and then starting over What I'm using in the Sikuli code to clean out that text box is Control A and delete. So in the keystrokes, Control A and then keystroke delete, and that's how you can do user input after you've use the mouse click to click in that particular field. Little tricks like that are already built in to this project. So you can see we've completed that test, and it's run through all of our code and exited successfully. So what do we have after we've run this code? What is available to us? Well, these are some of the best features that are a part of the SikuliStarter project that we've added on to Sikuli. And here we have this logs folder inside of our directory that holds another time-stamped directory that has the results of the test that we just ran based, I'm looking at that based on that timestamp. This is a log file that contains our output. It gives us a timestamp of when things just happened. It gives us the name of the search, terms from data file, Beatles, Radiohead, Katy Perry. It gives us all of these pieces of information that describe our test with the timestamp, and then whether it passed or not. So that's great. So we have this file that tells us whether our tests are passing or failing, and that's wonderful. But the main thing and the main feature that was helpful for me and my project and for my client is, did what happened, and how can I prove that? I'm writing the log file myself, but let's see if we can prove it with some pictures. And that's exactly what we have. We have the search term up here, and we have the actual results of that search down here. So we have been able to do that, and if we go through the pictures, every time we tell Sikuli that it's passed the test, it takes a screenshot, or that it fails the test, it takes a screenshot. So we have proof, timestamp proof, that at this point in time this was executed either correctly or it failed. And so that gives us tools to use to file defects or to show that our tests are passing. Well, that is all I have for our demonstration today. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope this presentation has been helpful to you. Sikuli and the SikuliStarter framework are by no means a resilient automation tool or framework, but it can be useful in some situations where other automation tools don't work or won't work. SikuliStarter certainly saved me many hours of tedious work and helped me meet a client's testing needs very quickly. If you have any further questions, please use the contact info from YouTube or GitHub to get a hold of me. Also, be looking for up-to-date information about expansion and other projects that we're involved in and our business growth on our expansion blog and our expansion website. Thank you very much.